video not too long as I have an appointment to get to. So, of course, super busy. But of course, ready to shine the light. Don't you love my thumbnails? I think it's super creative. I think it just lends to, the vibe, the feeling of the video. And I am going to do a sound check because, as you guys know, sometimes my equipment does funny things, but we don't want that to happen. So let me do a sound check. I'm getting ready to go out soon, so we'll see how long we got. Okay, let's see. I always like to just check on my backup computer. I know, maybe I should change some of my name. I don't like putting other people's names in it or make it all computer. I know, maybe because some people, that's what they do to try to get traction on their channel, and I rather not do that because why, At least people will know that it was because of my point of view, and, I didn't have to ride the coattails of anyone or, put them on display, because I know that some people, they just don't care. It doesn't matter about the content. It's just all about, making a name for themselves too, right? So it was making me think too a little bit of like the red pill video. Of course, I got interrupted. Sometimes it happens like that if, the hubby comes home a little bit sooner or whatever. Of course, I'm going to put real life first over my journalism, although I do love my channel and I have so much true content that I could put up there. And even if I'm talking for like 5 minutes, I'm saying something that's hitting home and it's getting other people talking too, because you can just tell because certain people wouldn't talk about certain things. And it's kind of funny how when you bring something up, all of a sudden it's, a story. It's interesting. So I know there's a lot of stuff going on. Everyone's talking about the Epstein files and all of that. I'm glad a lot of that stuff is being revealed. Of course, we're in the age of information. It kind of feels like some of us were doing it for a while. Don't mind my rose cream. It's so good for your skin. And it's so moisturizing. It smells so lovely. It's one of the most expensive oils you can buy, actually, right? And so a lot of people now are just, negative. Even some of the symbolism. I don't use symbolism. Don't think anything crazy when you're watching my videos. I don't appreciate it, right? It's pretty sad. Even the term rose, it's like, okay, a lot of these channels try to talk about women as if they know all women, like all women do this. I like one bozo who you can tell went tanning too much, but he uses the goggles, so he looked like a true raccoon, like at least put some makeup to like even it out, right? And he's all like, oh yeah, girls only want men who other women want, and you got to be almost like a, male whore or whatever, or, always, on edge, not to be trustworthy. And I'm like, you guys don't know what the hell you're talking about, or trying to make analogies like, yeah, no one's going to apply for a job no one else wants. Well, if it pays really well and they're getting treated really well and they're not doing stuff that's putting their, safety at risk or anything, then why not? And some people like, oh, I work for myself, I'm so much better. It's like, maybe somebody wouldn't want to do the type of job you have where you could break your neck and you're exposing yourself to all these conditions. A lot of the times it's all about free choice and what people choose to do. And people still don't get that. And they still try to interject their point of view because that's how men look at women, even though they get really insecure if a woman has options or perceived options. They don't want a woman that doesn't have options. They'll get bored with her or take her for granted. So, like, let's be real. That's why I tell women, always preserve yourself, always take care of yourself, right? And, stay away from people who have these rigid double standards, who wouldn't even walk the walk themselves, but are expecting the world from, the person they're with and stuff, right? So I put the picture too of Lady Liberty. I think there's a lot there too, right? Because especially in a country where, there's a lot of female governors and whatnot, you see that in the state of Massachusetts, but, overall the mentality, I think a lot to do with competition and, this anger for not being able to subjugate women in the way men, some men would like to, right? Which is not a healthy way to, build any type of rapport with anyone, right? So, and you have this beacon of, freedom for all, not based on, skin color or, sex or whatever, but based on, a shared, so-called Christianly value of loving thy neighbor, right? That's what they say. That's why a lot of these podcasters, that's why I'm quick to point it out and be like, listen, the ones who are on their invisible soapbox saying the most, right? A lot of them are the male ones, right? That are standing out, that are the loudest and stuff, have the most disdain for women and don't care about the poor, don't care about the destitute in their own community. That's what I'm saying. And you can do a lot for people. That's why I'm like, I'm getting to that point where I'm going to just cut through the BS, because the same people who try to help others and do the right thing because that's what they were taught was the right thing are now being chastised and lumped together with everyone else, and people really need to treat each other based on the content of their character. Not everyone is in the same predicament, right? And just because someone of a certain ethnicity or demographic could do something unsavory doesn't mean you need to look at the whole as well too, right? And the same can go for women, because I'm tired also of like, sometimes I was mentoring whoever on my channel, but it was really weird how I was attracting, certain demographics, right? And they thought like, they were going to use guilt or any type of, gaslighting to get things out of me that they didn't deserve and that I wasn't trying to give to them, okay? Without a merit-based system. Now, if you want to learn, if you want some of my notes, if you want to know some of the books I read, if you want to have some references, that's different. But at the same time, that's what I do some of my channels for. And people try to almost like demoralize that which we are supposed to do, right? Uplift each other. But I'm seeing a lot of people, that's not what they're trying to do, right? That is not, enough currency for them, obviously. And it's very interesting how you have the Statue of Liberty almost like separated, like in a moat in the water, right? It's like, all the secrets she sees, right? And how it was a gift supposedly from France, but now it's almost like being pimped out. You got to pay, right? To go like inside of her. It's very strange, right? The whole like idea of it, and maybe we're misrepresenting, or the media is, or, the system is of, the female side and the female nature, right? And so that could have been the symbol of wisdom, right? I know a lot of people have their conspiracy theories. Even with that, I don't care. I'm looking at it on the surface of where it's supposed to be a beacon of freedom from oppression, being able to worship God without persecution by the Catholic Church, not having, to have your soul sold in a way as well too, right? So a lot of people don't like learning about some of that stuff, going back to, some of the paperwork that we discussed, how people are being liberated, especially how you've seen, how people have been monetized, and that goes across the board, right? And then you could be in a tough situation, or you could be, working really hard, and then you'll have somebody who, will try to act like they have it so much worse than you when you're both in like the same condition or have descended from similar conditions. And not everyone can be, okay, everyone's the slave, everyone's the royal, everyone's every nationality there is. I mean, there is no more delineation anymore. It's almost like embarrassing to talk about certain things, and people should collectively worry about the issues that we have, especially since this country has been like downtrodden over the years. Okay, a lot of cleanup needs to be done. People, will fight each other over parking spaces. You're hearing all of that stuff. And when they can't do that, they have to come online and make a debate or a topic that could be inflammatory, right? And it's almost like that says more about the person and not so much their title, because you're still you, no matter what job you have, what title, that's still you, right? And, that's very important. That's why a lot of people tend to kill themselves if they lose like a high-end job or status or whatever, because they're so vacuous. They put all their stock into all of that. That's why I try to be a good mentor and teach people young, like, you are more than that, right? You are more than your job title. Okay. So people get lost in that, or, they start acting really bougie with each other, right? And it's okay, I'm from this stock, I'm better, I'm from that. It's like, yeah, everyone's so this and that, but they're so useless when it comes to helping each other. All it is at the end of the day is a cash grab, right? And so that's all it is. It's not about, working together to make America better, right? But I do have some notes here. Maybe people need a history lesson, okay? So you need to look up the first inaugural address, right? Abraham Lincoln, first inaugural address, 1861. It was all about establishing a more perfect union. He wasn't worried about slavery like people thought he was, so you need to look that up yourself. And it was never supposed to be allowed, right? Per the Articles of Association, okay? And the initial document that created the United States in 1774. And most of the attention, which, I know it's so easy to be in a certain vantage point. If you're a woman, it's easy to identify with just other women. If you're of a certain ethnicity, you can just identify with that. But I think like wisdom is truly being able to see the plight of others and not just yourself. That is a very childlike way of doing it, because you can do, like, I remember giving a ride to someone to pick up their car. It was getting serviced. And in the 10 minutes they were in my car, they had to use an indirect, it had nothing to do with the action of, going, using my car. They needed to pick it up. It was done at the shop, right? I was like, okay, nobody else was trying to do it. So I was nice enough to do it. And they had to use that time because something with the inspection sticker came up or whatever. And I was like, I think you would have been good a day or two. And they were like, oh no, I'm too dark. For that or whatever. I'm like, really? I mean, I don't think it would be that bad, or, and like in my mind, I'm like, of course, had to use an opportunity to bring up like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? They have it so much harder. And I'm like, of course, and it's not even someone that's like 100% anything. Of course, it's never even that, right? Which is a lot of condemnation with people that have a lot of self-hate. And it's just really strange who they'll pick favorites of like certain nationalities that they favor. But then, they have like this blind rage toward anyone lighter, right? And they just assume what they want to assume, right? And I'm like, yeah, whatever, just let them talk, because I'm like, okay, I already know where this is going. And I was like, yeah, well, I haven't seen much up here. I mean, we're in the north too. Like, they were like, yeah, they're more understated around here about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And they go, I'm like, are you sure? Or is it your perception? Sometimes people lie to themselves, and the war really is in the mind. And people have been pushed too much propaganda that it's like, yeah, what is everybody worried about other people when they can't even figure their own self out, right? So a lot of attention and condemnation has always been directed at the so-called African slave trade situation. This happened around the 16th and 19th century. However, at the same time, which funny how you don't get taught this, only I guess in certain schools, maybe you have to be in private schools, but again, it's up to the family to open up true history, not just one-sided history, and don't see how there's been so many channels at the same time that there were other wars simultaneously going on at the same time, which affected everyone and created the circumstance where a lot of people came here because the government here would make everybody else's issues their issues and go and, take over their government or their resources or whatever, make whatever a trade agreement. And the people are used and looked at as property as well, too. That's why it's so important when some of us were teaching how to secure your estate and things like that, and not allow the government to make assumptions, right, that you're presumed property. I don't know what was so wrong with that when some of us were teaching us that, and it goes to show the true racism is coming the other way around, okay? And the same person that I was helping was so obese, it was egregious, and I'm thinking, the only racist is you, and you're racist towards yourself. Because, like, look how you treat yourself, and, like, look how you look at the world. Like, no one's oppressing you to gorge, every lunch and do all this stuff, whatever. We don't gotta go there. But at the same time, in the Mediterranean area, the Barbary pirates enslaved about 1.25 million Europeans, and their lives were just as pitiful as the Africans. Referred to as the white slaves of the Barbary slave trade. Slavery is one of the oldest transactions known to man. Records of the slave trade date back to the Code of Hammurabi in Babylon in the 18th century are available. People from virtually every significant culture, civilization, and religious background have made slaves of their own and enslaved other people. Little attention is focused on the prolific slave trade carried out by the pirates of the Corsairs along the Barbary coast, as the Europeans called it in that period, in what is now known as the Empire of Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya, beginning around 1600 AD. In the 13th and 14th centuries, Christian pirates were primarily from Catalonia and Sicily, which conquered all admirable. When we talk about the law of the water, right, posing a constant threat. It was not until the Ottoman Empire's expansion in the 15th century that the Barbary Corsairs started to become an irritable problem to Christian vessels. While the Barbary slave trade is depicted as Muslim corsairs capturing white Christian victims, the pirates were not concerned with the ethnicity or religious orientation of those held in captivity. Slaves in Barbary could be of any color with multiple backgrounds: black, brown, or white, Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, Jewish, or Muslim. It was about their class of commercial status, okay, which dictated slavery or not. The pirates were not only Muslim, however, English privateers and Dutch captains of the Dutch India Trading Company So when some of you are like, oh, I got some Indian, yeah, there was a lot of Black Dutch slave owners, and that's why a lot of people were staying the hell away from them too. Also exploited the ever-changing loyalties of how neighboring friends could quickly become enemies, and enemies could become colleagues with the stroke of a pen as per private contracts. That's still going on today. People will do whatever to each other, but then when they're getting questioned, it's like, oh no, it's just us that's been oppressed. Ooh, freedom comes with the level of accountability too. And the Constitution, as they say, was wholly responsible for a moral people. Now you got some black pirates on here talking about you need to sterilize women now, and not being accountable for the men who are going out of their way talking about they want to make so-called baby mamas or chase women down and try to lock them down. I've seen all kind of scenarios, and they just throwing it out there, and the whole red pill thing is all it's an agenda, okay, and it's causing the situations that these people are complaining about, and of course it's all a political ruse. But some of us want to, we just step behind into the metaverse, try to tell you guys what it is, and then we got to get right back to the real life and actually know what the truth is, because instead of sitting around listening to gossip queens letting you tell it, it's best to go research, look up the sources. No excuse now with the age of information. You can look up articles from the comfort of your own laptop. You can look up the speeches that are on file at the Library of Congress. Okay, so I mean, is there really an excuse? So when you have people that are saying, very generic terminology and trying to like gaslight you and all that, it makes me want to do less and not even interact, because I'm like, I know this person is trying to get leverage. I feel like I'm being exploited. They don't have any empathy toward, my history or anybody that, my ancestors, right? And how a lot of the stuff was commingled. And a lot of people did the best they could. And not everyone is, looking to make their lives more difficult. I think that is egregious. And now people are becoming like super selfish, super cold with each other. And it's like, yeah, I thought American was such a Christian nation that was so caring, that was worth even fighting for. And all of the so-called money just goes to more military, to force more people into subjugation, where it's now even entertaining for people to watch shows like cop shows and whatnot. That actually bothers me, because I think it's really easy for people to just sit their fat asses on the couch and watch. I'm like, even if, okay, right or wrong, how is that entertainment for you? Some things I'm not going to shit on. I am not going to use as a fun time. I don't think it's okay. And it's stupid too when some people like, oh, certain people, they have more of a heart than white people, which is a freaking lie. Because, okay, if you see someone that you think is living in their car, or someone that is struggling with kids or whatever, some girls make videos and my heart goes out to them. If they're lying or not, that's on them. And I'm smart enough to like just pray for them, right? Because, I hear that some of them are monetized and they're probably getting more from some of us doing their channels, and they're doing fine, I guess. And I'm sure, God's going to lead them the way they need to go, right? And, there are people who are from like their persuasion or whatnot who should be trying to help and just use it as, a way to, to clown said people. And I'm like, well, not everyone is going to think the worst, right? And I don't know if it's like a thing with men too. I see that in the business arena when men get a woman on the phone, they're talking crazy and like, oh, don't screw me over. shaft the next person. Don't shaft. It's like, why are you even thinking like that? Like, maybe it's you like, oh, because I'm a business person. Like, oh, that's how you would do things. That's not how everybody would do things. Okay. And like, the whole symbol of this country has been like, misrepresented, because it's all about, trying to be inclusive regardless of your background. And you come for a better life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Then when that happens, and you could have been born here too, I was born and raised here, and you see like, hey, wow, like, you see the corruption, you see the political scandals that's going on, how, yeah, there's selective action, and not everyone gets a fair deal, and you could be a true victim in a situation and not get a fair deal, and other people can just lie and get their whatever reparations, or cry racism at work and get lawsuits, just because they didn't show up for their job, or maybe it was their bad attitude. A lot of people, they'll have like a bad attitude, and a lot of people, it goes through a lot. A lot of people are showing a lot of anger because they don't like the environment, and that can be men, women, doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your anything, because that's just a natural thing, right? But it's like, hey, you have to kind of move in a way where it's going to be productive, and not, try to, disregard the most vulnerable, and, the women or children or the casualties left of war and things like that. There was a time where you would uplift, that's what the Bible says. Remember, the fatherless and the widows. And now it's like, okay, well, men have been so demoralized, and there's a lot of fraternal orders that are really moving and shaking in some of these arenas, right? And it's all like, it's all a boys club, where they are trying to push away from healthy relationships, and they actually, are given the wrong advice to make men more upset, and causing the same cycle that's making them miserable, right? Because, when they don't have, that to soften them in a way, right? There really isn't anything to look forward to. And instead of, working together, now it's becoming like divided. So, a lot of people, they, instead of, looking at how they can make things better, and how, okay, well, everyone's in this construct, everyone can have a bad day. Okay, you can have a difference of opinion, but I think the anger comes from when you got controlling people who can't control people who are meant to be free. Okay, and that's what they've always wanted to be. Okay, they're not going to be under the suppression of people who don't have their best interests at heart, who don't want them to speak, who don't want to hear their point of view, because it could point the finger at the people who are trying to capitalize off the suffering of others, who are men who are, destroying lives of women, who put them in precarious situations, who threaten to leave them if they don't compromise themselves. All this stuff are the same ones that are coming right back on and blaming the people that they've been, destroying over time. And they can be so screwed up that they're, brainwashing each other to be like, yeah, they get to a certain age, you see it in shows, you see it in life, like they think, oh, the grass is greener. They might resent their responsibilities, or just do it because that's what they were told to do, or that's what they felt like they had to do, or something can click. And especially with the media, men want to blame that on everything, right? Well, blame it on yourselves too. You're watching easy access to all these women doing all this stuff. It's messing your head up, and you're starting to resent the one that's in your life. And I'm not talking about me currently or anything. I'm just saying maybe past relationships, how you can hear some men talk, especially who've been married a long time, in these workspaces, they can complain. And a lot of women would really respect my point of view, because when they get carried away, I'm like, hey, you're talking all that smack, but if it became permanent, you'd be really depressed. Or if you didn't have that person, like you think it's so easy out there, or maybe it's just you, maybe you could do things to, lift up your mood or whatever, you know what I mean? Maybe it's not even about the other person, right? Because you could just be struggling with your own feelings and the war could be in your mind. You could have watched too much crap on TV. You could have just assumed, and now you think you know everything about everything and you're completely wrong. Like, these pervert men saying all women do this or they masturbate. They'll look at this rose and their head will go right in the gutter. Like, I never did that once in my life and I don't plan to. Some of us have something called self-control. If I don't have the right inspiration, I'm just not even thinking about it. And let these men think the worst. I don't even care. I'm going to have to let you guys go soon because I'm off to my appointment. Let me get my jacket. So yeah, let people think what they want. Of course, it's going to be wrong. That's fine. But yeah, just know that the trolls are being trolled by the people they think that they're trolling, which is so funny. And, being nice can never be underestimated. I went and visited a little local shop. I like to support the local artisans and whatnot. And I was mentioning, that's why it's just so nice to, chit chat with people. And the shop owner, she was so sweet. I was like, you know what? I really need to buy a caddy for my sunglasses because they're just all over the place, right? And you definitely need to see clearly. So I got my readers. Sometimes I use my blue light blocking glasses. And she was like, actually, I have a box that I guess her stuff came in and she wasn't using. So she gave it to me. Isn't this like so sweet? So I just cleaned up my glasses and this is like a cool way, but it's really smart to get a caddy. I know all this stuff that I'm into, right? A caddy to put your sunglasses away. And I'm letting my nails be all natural. I'm actually rubbing this amazing rose cream on my nails in between when I get them done to help them stronger and to be better. And yes, so America has been monetized in so many different ways. Like everything is literally for sale. Apparently the morality too. And maybe she didn't sign up for that. It's like, what is going on? And with such a misogynistic point of view, it's like, how are you going to use a woman as a symbol and then all of a sudden be like so hateful toward women and ignoring the real players involved, And we'll see how much truth is exposed. Sometimes you got to be the light to shine over all the BS. I do put what I can on the community tab. I think a lot of it is more bread and circus. You got Trump parading Nicki Minaj around, making little innuendos and almost like, making a mockery once again. But that's all people want because people are so easy, to impress when it comes to just waving a couple of trinkets around. It's really not about, curing cancer, even though the literature has been around since the 1930s, or making the world better. It's about everybody getting their individual lick, right? Everyone just getting a little, that's all they want. They want a little taste. And sometimes they see you talking about something that, it's going to be an easy score, or, I'm going to come in like I'm some type of ally, like, oh, wow, I appreciate this person, even going down this road. And not just that, but like trying to act like it's not that and it's a show or it's whatever. It's like, you know what? You're only hurting yourself because, knowledge is power. And I guess that's why some people keep the knowledge to themselves because it is a form of a currency as well too. And your attitude and your spirit is so important. A lot of guys think that their looks are currency. It is not for a woman at all. If your personality doesn't match what you're putting out, it's not even going to work. Okay. If you're ugly on the inside, same ideology. Okay. And no one wants something that, it depends, how big your ego is, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Right. And not all women want to have something that they think they can be easily stolen or anything like that. If anything, I would feel like that wasn't even for me. If it was so easy just to take, or, if I felt like, you know what I mean? I'm not here to impress other women. To me, that is what lesbians would do. I'm not going to pick an item because I care what other women think, or even other men. I don't dress for whoever but myself because I have good style. I have good sense. I, know how to keep myself clean and presentable. I was always like that. So no outside influence is going to change that. Okay. Got my cream. This smell was divine. 1498, yeah. When all the sea merchants were traveling around, right? And a lot of us, we didn't ask to be here, right? None of us did. We just ended up here, and we're doing the best we can. And I think the more rhetoric, the more it's just causing people to self-destruct and to destroy their own communities too, because look at the rate of abortions now. And it's like, okay, what are you telling young women? And it's like, oh, why don't you go and tell young women that we're contemplating that they're going to be shamed if they do the right thing? Then more women are going to continue to do that instead of rising to the occasion. Okay. And things happen, but now we're going to blame just one side when there's another side who is the creators of these experiences, right? So the whole red pill community is going to cause more broken homes, just, living a life of lust-based lifestyle. And, you know what I mean? They don't take the world seriously is because they're not serious, right? You can't even take them seriously. That's the problem. But just know too that there's a lot of things that, will continue to be explored. A lot of the parts too, there's a lot of things going on in the monetary sector as well too. Some of us are just smart enough to know what it is. We can see the political plays. We can see the subliminals that they're trying to show us when they're talking about certain things. And Trump's giving Nikki this gold card, right? I'm like, yeah, he probably gave her full access to her trust. Like, okay, well, we all need reparations. This shit happened across the board to everybody. So if you getting it, I'm getting one too. Best believe I'll be fighting for one too. Best believe, okay? And I'm not even in certain predicaments anymore, and I can still have more heart than some of these people because I'm no longer a so-called single mother. I've already paid my dues. I'm grown. They're grown, but I can still have a heart and feel for those going through it because I know it's different situations. Now, if you're putting yourself in situations and you're on your fifth and sixth kid and you have no plan and you and your partner don't have that's different. But if it if you were always, you know what I mean, a go-getter and your life, okay, slow down a little bit because of course, common sense and still with inflation and everything, okay, you're limiting someone's earning ability and now you're putting more stressors on the situation and mouths to feed or whatever. Obviously, the math is going to come into play and everyone should be accountable for their part in it and not, okay, teaching people that, okay, they were victimized for doing something that, you know what I mean, that they willingly participated in regardless, okay? And some people are, they don't want to go into that story with, the Bill Cosbys and all of them, right? Those who on the surface made you think they were so professional and put together. And those are the ones in society too. They must be based on would be the ones doing the most egregious stuff or putting women in situations that were maybe out of their league or wouldn't maybe, you know what I mean, be so trusting, and they were trying to, you know what I mean, speed up the timeline and do all this stuff to interject themselves. And then all of a sudden, when they can't control the woman and they can't get her to sacrifice herself, right? Like, who has a death wish like that? Then all of a sudden, oh, they're difficult. It's the woman's fault. It's this. That to me is very cowardly. And a lot of it, that's what the red pill is teaching you. It's very illusory. And the men who are pushing it the most are the ones who are the most miserable. And the guys who are buying into it for so long are paying the price because they realize, hey, my point of view was trash for so long. What do I do now? And I put it out there. So they box themselves in, right? When it's a collective thing. And unfortunately, when some of us were trying to make study groups, and we were getting a lot of headway. There was some, you know what I mean, of some of you real spiritual warriors, because that's what it is. You know, to be mentally strong is to be a spiritual warrior. I have a couple of people that, you know, I could tell, and they could tell with me that we had the right spirit, and we exchanged information, and things have been flourishing. And you have people who are like resenting that fact, and they were seeing a movement of true liberation, but because it was a woman in the mix or this, then they tried to demolish it and make it about something else and distraction, and talk about other things when people were collectively trying to help. People need to look, you know, spiritually, and see who the true agents are, right? Because that's how you're going to be deceived, you know, pretty much, right? This little light of mine, gotta let it shine. All right, guys, I got an appointment to go to. Gotta go. If I can, we'll